With all the matchups for the Calamity Bloods all set for this current arc of Fairy Tail Ninja's Quest, there are many wondering how these fights will play out, but one thing that when it comes to Erza's fight against Mother Glare is wondering one thing. Will Erza awaken any dragon powers? This has for some reason been like a big talking point in the Fairy Tail community ever since Alvarez, when we realized that the mother of Dragon Slayers, Irene, was Erza's actual mother. And so people were wondering, since Irene was a dragon when she was pregnant with Erza, would Erza inherit some sort of dragon abilities for whichever reason? Okay, I actually do know the reason. Because it would be cool. And because people think that genetics always have to play a role in any anime and manga, no matter what. So I'm going to go over how people think that Erza can in fact awaken dragon powers, and go over why I think Erza should or shouldn't awaken dragon powers. So bear with me for a bit. But before we jump into things, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hype up the video to boost it in the algorithm. Really helps, and it shows you guys know the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And it helps alert other Fairy Tail fans that there is someone out there making consistent Fairy Tail content, and to help make the community grow even bigger. Now that out of the way, let's just jump right into the video. So, why do people think Erza is going to awaken dragon powers? Well, the obvious, like I mentioned in the opening, is because of Irene. Irene started to be turned into a dragon while pregnant with Erza, and since Erza was left in stasis thanks to Irene's whole enchantment magic thing and prevented herself for a long time from turning into a dragon, people assumed that that would mean that Erza herself would inherit some of these dragonic traits. I mean, it can also explain why she is just so built different in the story, especially after awakening her magic and just starting to fight. That could also be seen as a way to show how strong she is. I personally didn't really like that, but it was never stated to be the case, but it is what it is. But also the fact that since everyone is fighting dragons right now, especially in Hunter's Quest, people are kind of hoping that Erza awakens dragon powers because they don't want her to rely too much on the Dragon Slayer enchantment in order for her to actually be able to damage dragons like Mother Glare. And if she awakens these dragon powers, she could potentially awaken to her own unique dragon attribute, gain some sort of dragon-human hybrid transformation similar to Dragon Force, or get a full-on dragon transformation, like a latent gene in some cases when in a lot of anime tried to do like, oh, your parent was secretly this mystical creature or fighter or whatever, or was a demon or some shit like that. And then they awaken these powers in a time of stress or near death, or when, I don't know, you reach whatever age you have to for these powers to manifest. Now honestly, at first, I really do have to admit, this sounds cool. Erza gaining these type of dragon powers would honestly be really cool to see. A sword dragon, for all we know, or maybe she would also be an arcane dragon like her mother in order to use these types of incredibly powerful magical spells. Or even more so like a baseline Dragon Force-like transformation, not a full dragon, but a partial dragon transformation, gaining some dragonic traits, maybe even gaining some temporary wings, dragon scales, and claws with enhanced strength and speed and durability. That would be really, really cool, and I could imagine how Mashima could potentially design her character. Granted, it's Uena who's drawing the manga, but Mashima's going to be the one to make the initial design. But even still, I see the vision. I see having Erza fight against Mother Glare in a really cool battle of dragon-on-dragon combat, or dragon and half-dragon combat. And it could give us the possibility for some more unique ways of Erza using her swords and other types of enchantment, especially celestial body magic. If she uses that with a partial dragon transformation, now that would be devastating. But still, despite it being a really, really cool idea, and why I would honestly really like to see it, I have to reiterate something that many others have stated on why this wouldn't work for Erza specifically. And that's because it would go and fly in the face of the entire point of her battle against Irene. Irene was a dragon. She was full-on a dragon, and she basically was abandoning her humanity for the potential of getting rid of this dragon body. But Erza, despite being the child of a dragon, was human. She was just a plain old human. And she fought for her human life and her friends and the family that she made in Fairy Tail. And if she just all of a sudden gained these dragon powers, it'd feel kind of unearned and kind of fly in the face of Erza and her representation in Fairy Tail as just the embodiment of human spirit, courage, bravery, willpower, especially willpower, and love. So if she just gained these dragon powers, especially out of like, nepotism, if we're being honest, or just genetics, it would just feel out of nowhere, out of place, and unearned. It wouldn't fit her character and the motif of like how she's been represented as like basically peak humanity or something like that. And so having her gain these dragon powers would literally just feel like, I don't know, just something that happened just because it looks cool. That's why we have different armors and swords and Erza learning enchantments to help add more to her kits, but also shows that off screen she's been training and working on new things, showing her own progression and ingenuity. If she just gained these dragon powers, it'd just be handed to her, and it would kind of feel out of nowhere, even if it would be cool. But I will also have to reiterate something that I stated in my Erza versus what it was could have been a great, but it was just a disappointment video that I made a few weeks ago, which unfortunately did not do too well. I highly recommend you guys watch that. I go over a couple of good points on why that fight could have been like really, really good, especially in 100 Years Quest. But my main talking point in that video was Erza just fighting on behalf of just accepting her humanity and her human side. She was the daughter of a dragon by all regard, and she was fighting someone who was also fighting as a child of a dragon. But one rejected his humanity and wanted to become a dragon like his father, as he viewed his father and dragons as a superior life form, saw humans as weak and frail and unworthy of power, and so he would throw that away with the big Universe Omega Dragonification spell all over Giltina, abandoning his humanity, becoming a human-dragon hybrid, basically transitioning into a full-on dragon eventually. While Erza was just accepting the fact that she was a human. She basically represented humanity in that fight, and if it would have gone along like many wanted to, it would have been a nice battle of ideals of what it means to be human. And I do feel like having that aspect really thought of, and at least the setup for that being set up for like the parallels between those two characters, and all of Erza's history and everything that we know about Irene, her sacrifices on the struggles of a human dragonifying and turning into a dragon, and how that drove her mad over time, I really do feel like it would spin in the face of Erza's development and how she has advanced throughout the story. Erza getting dragon powers would definitely 100% be a cop-out and just feel like you wouldn't boost her character at all. If anything, it'd just feel like adding on something just for the sake of it. I know Fairy Tail and ShyRose Quest has had like a good number of things just happen in the story, but at least there was some form of like acknowledging how things were done, or some form of progression. Natsu's recent power-up with his new, I call True Dragon King mode, was something, while it didn't feel fully earned, also felt nostalgic and made sense with how things were going for his power-up. He needed to boost himself up to a higher plane, and it worked for a time. Ignia's boost was definitely not earned. It was just there to kind of mix the two villains to kind of maybe just make one real antagonist for the series to end up advancing towards. And I really feel like that would be more so how Erza gaining dragon powers or awakening dragon powers in her fighting its Mother Glare in order to win would feel. Because it would literally just feel like something tacked on for her to win because of something from her, because she got it from her mother, and it just was never alluded to in any way of potentially being something for her to gain or awaken, and it would just be unsatisfying. Again, the fight would be cool. The form, I guarantee, would have been awesome, but it just doesn't feel like the right thing to just throw into the story at this point. Right now, I think we would all prefer Erza with a Dragon Slayer enchantment, with her new star armor, alongside her celestial body magic that she learned from Jalal, would be enough to at least give us a really cool and amazing fight. Maybe have a Dragon Slayer join in to help Erza, but if she gets a one-on-one, she would need to earn it and showcase herself as the literal embodiment of human willpower and human spirit, as she has always been in the story. And the dragon aspect, in a battle between humans and dragons, it just wouldn't feel that right in this instance. We only really get that with the Dragon Slayers, especially Natsu. We don't need another Natsu in the story to represent the whole dragon-human thing in terms of an idea of coexistence or what dragons really are. We already have the Dragon Slayers, the original Dragon Slayers, from the past that came to the present with Natsu, Gajul, Wendy, Sting, and Rogue. Erza being thrown in there will just, again, also add into the whole Dragon Slayer bargain sale that we got in 100 Years Quest with like a bunch of Dragon Slayers and people that can use Dragon Slayer magic. And it just felt like less special. And that kind of is what it boils down to. Erza getting this power up would not feel all too earned, it wouldn't feel that special, it would just feel like a cool thing to happen, and then we move on at the end of it. And it would also make power scalers incredibly hyped for, scaling Erza above many others, but that's besides the point. At the end of the day, it's a really cool idea, and I can see where people are coming from it, but it just would feel unearned, and it would just feel like a slap in the face to a lot of what Erza represents, especially with all the fights that she has had throughout the series, showcasing who she is and why she fights. And yeah, that's why Erza should not gain dragon powers or a dragon form. But you guys let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of Erza getting a dragon form? Do you think it would be cool but unearned? Do you think it would just be a massive cop-out? Or do you think there is reasons that I missed or overlooked that would make Erza gaining dragon powers make sense? It would actually enhance her character writing. Let me know. And once more, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Helps to show you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel, and hype up the video to boost in the algorithm so more people can find these fairy tale videos and help discuss things and make the community even bigger. With all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.